This is the Wait For It podcast.
Hey everyone, welcome back to the Wait For It podcast. I'm your co-host, Phil Barrera, aka Phil the Filipino.
And I'm your other co-host, Mr. Eric Almighty, and we are here in the month of April for Patreon month, and shout out to Vintage, who has been supporting us over there on that platform with that community, and we had an opportunity, as we like to do these days, where we show off a couple of different options potentially, or we pick from multiple options from Patreon. And in this case, this one stood out the most, not only from a dear friend, but because, Phil, the movie Stardust is apparently a cinematic marvel that we just had to see, and I'm not exactly going to argue with that.
Listen, man, this thing is in a crazy time capsule of early 2000s films, and it's kind of crazy that, like, I've never heard of it. I don't know if you had ever heard of it going into this. I also did not know who was in this movie. I went into this thing blind. I just knew we were going to watch it for Vintage. Again, shout out to our Weight Watchers and for Vintage for this suggestion. And it is in this just crazy, like, early fantasy, again, 2000 thing where movies were just, and directors and producers and everybody was just throwing stuff at the wall and seeing what would stick. And I wish that happened more now. It certainly does happen, but like not to the degree that it did back then. Because man, what a ride Stardust is. So I'm excited to add this one to the late to the party list because we are definitely very late to this one. So let's get into it. Of course, if you need a reminder as to where to find everything Wait For It podcast related, and also maybe be part of the next Patreon month, Eric will let you know a little bit about that at the end of the episode. But Stardust 2007, directed by our favorite director, Matthew Vaughn, of course, the director of the cinematic masterpiece Argylle. Also the Kingsman movies and X-Men First Class. He did those too. But Argylle specifically, I want to mention. But Stardust, the summer a star falls, the chase begins. In a countryside town bordering on a magical land, a young man makes a promise to his beloved that he'll retrieve a fallen star by venturing into the magical realm. His journey takes him into a world beyond his wildest dreams and reveals his true identity. Daredevil's his true identity. Apparently. Because Charlie Cox is in this. Claire Danes, Michelle Pfeiffer, Mark Strong. Shout out to Mark. We're going to talk about Mark Strong and all the brothers in a minute.
We're going to talk, Phil, I'm going to be honest with you. I think we usually do this in a 3 takeaway format. I'm going to let you guys know I'm going to let you know right out of the gate. The first takeaway for both of us is this cast. We're just going to get that out of the way. First takeaway, this fucking cast is insane. It's crazy. Talking about Charlie Cox, was it odd to see him actually look someone in the eyes? A little bit. A little bit.
What's he looking at? What's he looking at here? Michelle Pfeiffer having a grand old time in this as well. And Robert De Niro as a closeted gay pirate was not on my 2026 bucket list. How this isn't brought up in his performances of all time is beyond me, because once again had no clue he was in this until we got to like the 1 hour point of the movie. I was like, what the fuck is happening?
The 1 hour point of this movie, it takes such a turn, and like I wasn't sure if I was on board for the ride, but I was. Little did I know. I will put the precursor out there because we're about to talk about the cast, and we're going to talk a lot about the movie, right? This movie probably shouldn't need a spoiler warning. We're going to give it because this movie came out in 2007. We're going to talk freely because if you just listen to the synopsis Phil gave, that doesn't begin to describe the fucking nuttiness of this story, but it does work. I want this to be very clear before we talk about boring stuff later, like scores and where it ranked. This movie is both, and I think we can all agree objectively, a bad film, just a bad movie at its core. but also does belong in like a cinematic Hall of Fame. Like, it's just like really weird.
If there's no Criterion Collection Stardust DVD Blu-ray, I'm gonna riot.
It's right smack dab in the middle of both of those pillars, which maybe gives you a little bit of a tease as to where we put this movie. But I cannot stress this enough. This is one of those movies that, like, even though we're gonna have maybe complaints, or you could call them nitpicks, like, this is the vibe we're giving you for a reason. And I think if you haven't seen this movie, this is what you should expect walking out of seeing it, is like this exact vibe. And again, it has a lot to do with the cast.
And who knows, like, maybe when this episode comes out, we'll find out that a whole bunch of other people have watched this movie and, like, we all have those movies that are, like, in our early, you know, adult life slash childhood Hall of Fame. And I feel like this is definitely one of those. It's also a movie that if a homeless man approached you on the street and explained to you what the concept of Stardust was, you'd be like, get the fuck away from me, I'm calling the police. You'd be like, get away from me, man. It's like that Donald Glover joke where he talks about how the Teenage Mutant Ninja Turtles are like a homeless man's fever dream. He's like, they're all named after Renaissance artists and their father's a giant rat. Like, get the fuck away from me, man. That's what's happening. That's what's happening in Stardust when somebody would try to explain it to you. But yeah, the cast is outstanding, and you get not only is Robert De Niro, what was his character's name? He was Captain Shakespeare,
yeah.
Shakespeare, which, come on, man.
Apparently, I did a little bit of research. Smaller role in the book, bigger role for the movie.
Well,
good call.
Thank God for that. Yeah. Imagine reducing Robert De Niro's role. What
do you think the casting director was thinking when they're like, he said yes?
Do you think he auditioned for this?
I don't know, but I would only imagine that after
Robert
getting
De
the
Niro.
acceptance call, they were like, hey, we gotta make this worth it. Like, this might be the only chance we get for Robert De Niro to be, to be cross-dressing. Come on.
Budget $70 to $90 to $88.5 million. That's crazy. And 50 of that went to Robert De Niro.
Probably. I do believe this movie technically bombed, although it did make more than its budget. But with marketing, and then the cast is nuts. So I don't even know.
Screams like a DVD, like one of those that would get a resurgence on renting and DVD streaming
DVDs
type of thing. Yeah, if this came out in the streaming era, I think it may. I don't think it would have necessarily held maybe in such high regard, but I think because again it is part of so many people's probably like core memories, I think it probably benefited from that, even though I'm sure it didn't do well in the box office.
Well, yeah, and like it also is like we talked a little bit about this kind of leading up, was like how much of a time capsule of a movie this is. So you mentioned a lot of people, like we could go deeper than that. Like Peter O'Toole is in this movie for like a scene. Ian McKellen is the fucking narrator. We get a young Henry Cavill, which Phil did not know.
Didn't even know it was him until we were about to load this episode up.
Like minutes before we clicked record that Henry Cavill was even in this movie. So like it's got so much going for it, like just from that standpoint alone. And I gotta say, like, you mentioned Robert De Niro specifically being a standout because it's so absurd. Michelle Pfeiffer being like, again, having the best time of her life. Charlie Cox just bumbling his way through being the main male lead. Claire Danes doing a good job. Mark Strong being just, again, in his bag with villainy, and it shouldn't work. And like the longer you sit in it, it does kind of work. It does. So yeah, this cast is absolutely nuts. I love the fact that Ian McKellen is a narrator in this. I think it lends itself a lot, because this is a book adaptation, I believe. So I think it lended itself a lot to not only the adaptation, but the fact that this is that, typical fantasy film that would die at this time of year. Like the 2000s, you had movies like Aragorn and The Golden Compass, like movies that I think this one gets tied in with, but it is not.
Lion, Witch, and the Wardrobe. What were those called again?
The Lion, the Witch, and the Wardrobe, which is probably more on the side of a Stardust than, again, I think people give this movie credit for, like putting it maybe in the same realm as some of those other ones I mentioned.
I don't. That's what they were.
Chronicles of Narnia. Yeah, you went for like the elongated subtitle,
What do they
which
call 'em?
is choice.
The other person other than Robert De Niro that I was like, how the fuck did they end up in this is Ricky Gervais.
Oh my god, that's right. He was in that. He was as himself.
Ricky Gervais. How did they cast this? How was this movie made?
What was the determination?
I need a 3-hour documentary on how this film was made.
This is the type of movie you'd want to own on VHS just so you could get to the or early DVD. You could get to the behind the scenes part. Yeah, for sure. I would want the physical copy just to get the behind the scenes stuff that they might have put in 2007 still.
I found one on walmart.com for $10.
Get it. It's
where's the hardcover?
Possibly
the collector. Hold on.
It's possibly peak casting. So I don't know.
Yeah, I would love to know what Matthew Vaughn. When was this in his? Because this obviously came before everything else. When did Kingsman come out? 2014.
It was his second movie. So he did a movie called Layer Cake in 2004, which I had never seen. But it has what the fuck? It has Daniel Craig in it, and Tom Hardy. What is this movie? Sally Hawkins. What is? Ben Whishaw, what is this movie? Anyway, we might have to look into that. Layer Cake in 2004. He did Stardust in 2007 and then Kick-Ass in 2010 before he moved to X-Men and Kingsman. What?
Okay, so again, this is more... I feel more validated in thinking that Argyle should have been good because look at this run.
It is crazy.
It makes me feel better because what do you mean a 2007 throwaway fantasy romantic novel is better than a movie that you released in 2025, 24, whenever the fuck Argyle came out. We talked about Argyle too much.
That is true. We have. You're really laying it on. I would say though, like if you kind of look at it, like Kingsman, the first Kingsman was probably his last overwhelmingly positively received movie, and that was 2014. Then you had The Golden Circle, which I did not watch. I had heard enough of it to know.
Circle?
I've seen clips, but I've never actually watched it. I heard people liked it, but not as much as the first
one, but it's still worth watching.
I never watched The King's Man, which I heard people did not like.
I haven't seen that either.
Ray Fiennes, very sad to see, and then Argyle. So like, there's kind of a big gap between this like 3-4 movie run: Stardust, Kick-Ass, First Class, Kingsman, and then if you want to throw the second Kingsman in there, you can, but. Yeah, then 2020 in the 2020s, he has only released 2 movies, and both of those movies under 3 average on Letterboxd, which probably makes sense based off of the reception I've heard through the grapevine on those.
I think The Golden Circle is worth watching. I think it's worth your time, but it is an interesting run. Yeah, he's been on a little bit of a cold streak here recently, but yeah, you can really see. Watching Stardust, like you're very aware, like, oh, this is definitely the same guy that did Kick-Ass, that did Kingsman, that did First Class. Like there are elements of that in Stardust, which was pretty cool to see. It's always interesting going back and watching early works from successful directors. So yeah, there's certainly a lot of that influence going on throughout the rest of his work, but. We talked about the cast a lot. I guess the next takeaway that I'll go to, we've already kind of talked. This one's already kind of like all over the place anyway. So we already talked about how this one is in this is a product of its time, and I really, really loved it for that, and for just kind of again, I didn't know that it was based off of a book. So yeah, just seemingly kind of throwing things at the wall. I'm sure, as with any type of adaptation, you really, really have to be selective about what you do and don't include. I'm sure there was a ton of stuff that probably got left out, but I enjoyed the setting, even though there's nothing memorable about it whatsoever. I don't remember any of the set pieces other than the final fight. Like, I don't remember any of the actual location. Oh, and the ship, because Robert De Niro was cross-dressing and and having a great time on the pirate ship that floats in the sky. But everything else isn't really memorable, but I just really enjoyed my time with the characters. I guess the thing that I'll point out here next is I really love this rogues gallery of Ghost Brothers that kept getting added to. throughout the movie. Like I did genuinely laugh whenever another one got killed and was added to that kind of like, the Muppets, the two Muppets that sit up in the sit up in the corner and just commentate on everything. That was really, really great. So I guess my next take of that would be like I laughed more than I thought that I would in this. Michelle Pfeiffer also a source of a lot of really, really funny stuff. So yeah, that was really solid. And again, I did not expect this to be as funny as it was in certain instances.
Yeah, well, the comp for this, a lot of people, and I think even Matthew Vaughn had mentioned, like, there was going to be, like, elements of, like, Princess Bride in this. That was kind of what they were going for. I don't know that they always achieve that, because I think unlike The Princess Bride, which really knew how to have fun with itself, I think this movie doesn't know how to do that at times. Like, there are some times where I think it is taking itself too seriously, and we'll kind of talk about that, because I think that's more so to do with the fact that this whole story is tied to the love interest storyline, which I don't know if that works really well. So, but I would see why the funniness of it kind of between the director and then the comp to The Princess Bride, I could see where they were going, which apparently is a different theme from the books, which I believe might be a little bit darker and a little bit more like sexual, which, mind you, talking about sexual, we did read a spicy book called, Spicy Little Curses. The first 5 minutes of this movie, more action than that whole 2-hour audiobook. That was crazy work. Crazy work there.
Man, Papa Thorne had game.
Yep.
Got in there.
He got in there. He got in, got out, and it was really nuts. My second takeaway is gonna be just the visuals of this movie, I both in positive and negative. So this movie is a product of its time, and I think with fantasy films, it tends to be tougher. You just spoiler alert, guys, because this is probably our May episode. Phil watched a big fantasy franchise from some this kind of time period, this era, and Phil, I think that one stands more the test of time in general than a movie that like this did, because of what it was trying to do.
I was actually watching the first one. I literally watched it again the other day.
Yeah, so I feel like this movie, it's weird though. This movie also has like some cinematic moments where it's like, whoa, what was that? And I'll give you my two comparisons for this. The scene with the clouds, really bad. Really, where they're in the clouds and they're arguing, really, really bad. Some scenes on the ship, really, really bad. But you know what was it? Like that scene with the runes where Mark Strong is having that conversation and they're throwing the runes up, and it's like this slow-mo cinematic, like HD visual that they were giving. This movie was like really experimenting with a lot of different,
probably where they wanted to put
probably. But like, I don't know if it was before its time or if it was just they wanted to just like that was part of the gag. I really couldn't tell, but the visuals in this movie always kept me stimulated, sometimes in the wrong direction, sometimes in the right. And this movie, again, just kind of did that to me visually with the choices they made. So that was my second takeaway. In addition of it being funny, I think this movie has a lot of cinematic stuff that you can look back at and laugh, but also you can kind of take notice of.
I think, again, it just has a real charm to it. Like, again, a real, let's just see what works type of vibe. And we just don't see anybody taking any risks now. Like, this thing would probably get greenlit for like some streaming platform maybe right now, and it wouldn't have any of these names in it. That's for damn sure. Whoever the equivalent of Charlie Cox and like Claire Danes are now, like they wouldn't be in this movie. So I think that just really, really adds to the charm and the kind of like magical nature of this film. Like, no pun intended, because of the what's happening in this movie. Again, the story itself, I think, is nonsense. Like, what's going on? Why does a star? I don't even know. I'm not gonna get into the lore of Stardust. Why does a star turn into a person?
We don't really get that answer.
There's a lot of they kill a lot of animals in this also. So there's a lot of when they killed that, what was it, like an otter right in the beginning, or a ferret or something? I was like, what the fuck's happening?
I do actually have a question for you. There was talking about like maybe the violence in this movie because they killed a lot of people. We are going to skip ahead to the final battle scene a little bit
twice
here.
now vintage.
Yeah,
Two
okay.
times
So I was
vintage.
going to ask you.
2 times vintage.
So I was going to ask you. I'm going to assume you didn't like the voodoo doll.
First, it was the fucking Wolf Among Us.
Wolf Among Us, yeah.
Which is way worse than what happened here. But again, I was like, God damn it. Come on, man.
Did you see it coming the way that I saw it? Because I audibly,
I did. When she grabbed
yelled,
the
I said,
food, I was like,
oh
no! It wasn't that bad. I did also just watch Send Help, which there's not broken bones in, but it's very graphic. So
yeah.
that, compared to what happened here, it was nothing. But I was like, come on, man. But yes, did see it coming.
Yeah, okay, good. That's really all I wanted to ask, because it was like, the second I saw it, I was like, Phil is not going to have a good time with this. But I knew there wasn't anything exposed. It wasn't too graphic. If anything, it was kind of a cool, like, thing. They did this whole weird thing, too. Like, again, talking about experimenting, they did a lot of experimenting with that last, like, 30 minutes of the movie when it came to that little last fight.
I think they were in their bag when they got to the castle and you know, them saving... and all that. There's like that little funny moment between Tristan and Humphrey, who is apparently Henry Cavill once again, when he goes to go see Victoria and be like, I don't want you anymore.
Here's this girl's hair.
Yeah, it was really giving when he pulled out the bigger sword, and he's like, that's not a knife. This is a knife. Like, a lot of Crocodile Dundee vibes there at that moment. But yeah, I think they were definitely in their bag in that final 30 minutes when I was most invested in what was going on. In between, well, that's not true. Anything Robert De Niro did is when I was most invested, but I was second most invested, definitely in that final act.
Yeah, no, I would agree with that. I think I'm trying to think. I hope you have a third takeaway, because I feel like we have thrown so many in here, and I don't want it to just be a nitpick, but I guess it would maybe justify my score a little bit, so I might go that direction. Did you have anything for your third takeaway? And if not, was there anything on the like critical side that like didn't work for you? Because you've been pretty positive so far.
Kind of what I mentioned a minute ago, like the story is just nonsense. Like, it's really kind of thrown together. They move from point A to point B with really not a whole lot of really good exposition or explanation of what was truly going on. For the first hour of this movie, I was pretty checked out and also very confused. The love story is like fine. It's kind of half baked. You know, that's like okay. I do think it was cute. I'm still again not 100% sure. So does she just not have to? Okay, so she doesn't have to return to being a star because she fell in love. I guess that's what happened.
No, so I think so they rule for like a while, and then they go back into the sky as stars to live happily ever after. Yeah, well, they're both stars.
She can just stay as not as in human form and also have children.
Great question. Great questions. I hear you. Also, does she have to shine? Like, I understand she's a star. Does she have to?
That's such a 2007.
You know what I mean? It's
thing.
It's just curious. But again, they're all trying to eat her. They could have just made her fall in love, which is apparently very easy to do. Because from when we get, I believe, in the cloud scene, him calling her like a stupid cow, maybe like 15 minutes later, he's like a rat or whatever he gets turned into,
and realizes that
I love you.
Loves him. Yeah.
So yeah, a little interesting on the pacing.
It's a nonsense love story that I'm sure is, I would assume, is more baked out in a book. I would hope so.
But you know what? Like, I really do feel like, knowing when this movie came out and assuming Vintage saw it probably at the age that was most like influential for that type of film. Yeah. Like, it would make sense that Vintage would love this movie, and that most people maybe in that demographic would like this movie a 100%. Lot more than like two dudes in their 30s
that's so fair.
Reflecting back in 2026 watching this would feel.
But also to push back on you a little bit, we've watched a lot of rom-coms on this that we've loved. So we're not against
it's true
half-baked, let's speed run the romance type of stuff.
Yeah, that's fair. But what is your official third takeaway?
That was basically,
or was that it?
Just kind of the story and the love story is all kind of like half baked and secondary. Again, I really didn't even fully, I don't think, lock in until like the second half of the film. So the first part of the movie is kind of kind of all over the place and kind of boring. But yeah, the second act really does save it.
Yeah. I think for my third takeaway, I'm going to go with the fact that, and you know, this kind of recaps a lot of what we've said already, I feel, but this movie, in both the best and the worst ways, is a reflection of the time, and specifically the fantasy genre. Specifically the type of movie that this thing is trying to be. You did talk about the story being all over the place. It does work. And there's a lot about this movie that I'm not going to forget, but I could genuinely understand somebody watching this and like loathing it, like absolutely hating it. And there's a lot of, I think, reasons for that from a story perspective that you could really kind of nitpick. A lot of things from a visual perspective that you can nitpick, and you can only really save the nostalgia of how this movie made you feel for an opinion to give to somebody that's never seen this before. So that it kind of holds the movie back in a lot of ways, because it's not quite timeless because of a lot of those things. But also, like, again, we walked away pretty positive on this movie. Like, although, again, I don't think our scores will reflect that. I feel like a lot of scores out there, which we're going to get into, your Letterboxd, your IMDb, your Rotten Tomatoes even, are pretty strong about how people feel about this. And I think at the end of the day, we would recommend this to the right person. But I don't know that we would recommend this movie just to anybody, especially because I don't even think we addressed this earlier, Phil. I did know about this movie, personally. I also believe I have seen a little bit of it. Again, back to the TNT brain, where I was probably in the dentist office once and I saw 25 minutes of it in the waiting room. I'm pretty sure I've seen a little bit of it, but I don't know that this is well known. It's more like a cult classic, but maybe borderline, because I know a lot of people do like this. I just don't know that this movie's recommendable to too many people. Although it is 128 minutes, so just a little over 2 hours. You are right about that first half. And I think, again, from pacing to story to the way the movie looks to the humor at times to the love story and love interest kind of being lackluster and being at the forefront, all of those things have like the best and worst of this genre on display. And I think that's why it hasn't quite reached full cult classic status, but it also isn't one that should just die like some of those other, again, early or mid 2000 fantasy films.
Yeah, I certainly agree. So what I would say is, like, as far as the recommending it to people, like, I probably won't watch this again on my own, but I would watch it again with other people that have both seen it already and have not seen it. I think it would be a fun time. But like you said, it would be a tough ask to ask somebody who's, one, maybe not even interested in this type of story, two, has never heard of the movie, to be like, just give it an hour. Like, that's a lot. It's like in the similar vein of what we're in right now with Crimson Desert that I'm playing, where you're telling people you got to get through the first 8 to 10 hours of the game, then it really opens up. Like, it's hard to do that.
Yeah,
it's hard to convince people that with a movie that's half of it's like not very good. So,
yeah, and the Robert De Niro twist is funny, but that's not the twist that's going to keep you invested in another hour if you're having a bad time. You know.
Yeah.
In fact, God forbid you're like, you really love Taxi Driver and you walk into this one, you're like, what the fuck is this?
Yeah.
This caricature of Robert De Niro.
Listen, man, I'm gonna say we're gonna have to rank these Robert De Niro performances one day.
This will be above Taxi Driver for us, baby.
It's definitely above Taxi Driver.
It might be just as a film, but maybe even performance. It's a top 3 Robert De Niro performance.
I'm sure the Taxi Driver bros are not watching the Stardust episode or listening to the Stardust episode.
I don't think they're very interested. But I think you hit it right on the head. This is a movie that I don't think I would ever actively want to see again because it's so fucking insane. But it's a movie that I will never forget about. Like, I will not forget the start to finish ride that Stardust took me on.
Where this would be perfect is if R.I.P. and F you to Corey, if Sunray Cinema said they were gonna have a Stardust night and they were gonna show the movie, fuck yeah, I'd go. Yeah, I would absolutely go. Get some pizza, get some popcorn, and just sit there in those cheap seats and eat and watch Stardust with some friends. I would have done that. I would have absolutely done that.
I could be dragged to that. That's fine.
What are the chances the Way Forward podcast can buy Sunray Cinema? How are things going? How are things going for us right now? Well, we are about to open up a new PNC Bank credit card.
No, we're not. No, we're not. We're not doing that.
Can you buy a business on a credit card?
Listen, we just filed our first year of taxes. Did not enjoy that. I don't think we need to add such a substantial loss.
We're in the hole. So if you'd actually could join our Patreon, that'd be we'd appreciate.
Yeah, that would be great. That'd be great. So we could purchase Sunray Cinema.
We operate at a loss all the time.
For the immediate future, I feel like this is probably a good spot for us to not only go over the general reception, but also go over our rankings and scores. I'm going to also see what the hell this looks like on the More Like This game that we do at the end. So I have no idea what to expect. So while I look for that, you tell us, how do people feel about this one?
Yeah, man. Like you said, maybe not full cult classic status, but the scores may say otherwise. 77% certified fresh tomato meter score, 86% popcorn meter score, a 7.6 on IMDb, which is unheard of, by the way, for IMDb. And over on Letterboxd, holding a very strong 3.7 out of 5 stars. Yeah, man, I walked away. Here's what I will say to explain my score, because Eric knows that I do this. The movie, at best, is a 3. It's a 3 across the board. Performances are definitely, some of the performances are definitely above that and elevated. Mark Strong, we didn't even talk too much about him, is also very good and comedic in this movie, along with, again, the rest of his brothers that are in this. But I think, again, it tops out as a 3. But I have, in this conversation, bumped it to a 3.5, based totally on vibe and how much fun that I had. I, again, don't think I would ever watch it again by myself, but I would definitely love to watch it with some friends, and I think we would have a really, really fun time. So, yeah, 3.5 for me, man. And honestly, again, that first hour, I was like, uh-oh. Like, we're going to have to... Between, what was it, like Porco Rosso last year, what was the other, what else did we watch last year? Because we did 2 Patreon months last year as well, right? Or did we just do one?
That was, I think, in the month of October.
No,
we did Alien Battle Royale. We did, which we liked.
Yeah, Alien's very good. Yeah, I love Aliens. Okay, so yeah, I was just got a little worried. But yeah, 3.5 for me.
Yeah, I think that's honestly, I wasn't surprised to see your update to your Letterboxd list, because I've been bumping it up as well in the rankings. I just cannot bump it up in score. This movie is, like I mentioned earlier, smack dab in the middle of being one of the worst things I've ever seen in my life and one of the best things I've ever seen in my life. It's somewhere right there in the middle, and I really think that's the best compliment I could pay to this movie. With me, I gave it a 3 out of 5. I could be convinced to a 3.5 one day. The reason I can't give it a 3.5 is for the comment I made in the tail end here. I don't think I don't think this movie could offer anything to me on a second watch that it hasn't tried to offer to me on the first one, other than watching it with other people, which is weird, Phil, because a 3.5 I would recommend to people, and I would also watch again potentially. A 4 I would show the movie off to people. So this movie has elements of a 3, which is where it's at, elements of a 2, which it might be at for some people, and it also has elements of movies I would give a 4 to. So I just feel like between that 2 and 4 range, 3 smack dab in the middle is the perfect spot. And again, maybe with time. This movie has not left me since I've watched it, so that's a good sign. But I just think this helps my argument that 3s are not bad movies on my list. There are 3s here that I could genuinely say, from like a cinematic standpoint, may not be very good in a lot of technical terms or a lot of areas, but it is something I'm super glad that I watched, and I can totally see it being a movie that people love.
I'll give this to, we will applaud Vintage here for this recommendation. What an experience. It's certainly not the highest ranked film that we've done on Late to the Party as far as Patreon month. That, of course, will go to Alien, but like this was again just a wild ride. So shout out to Vintage. Let's go to rankings here, Eric, before More Like This. For me, again, I had it pretty low initially, but again, as I updated my score, and reevaluated. I currently have it ranked 28th out of 45 films, right in front of movies such as Tintin, Spirited, and Tucker and Dale versus Evil, and then right behind movies like The Bad Guys, Aaron Brockovich, Edge of Tomorrow.
Yeah, no, that's pretty fair. You actually had it right around the same point that I did before this conversation, and then I bumped it up a few myself. So I moved it up to 33 out of 45 films we have ranked on Letterboxd. It is ahead of several 3-star movies like Tucker and Dale vs. Evil, Real Steel, Halo Forward Unto Dawn, Man of Steel, and The Adventures of Tintin. But it can't quite cross movies like Raiders of the Lost Ark, Temple of Doom, The Big Sick, Spirited, Bad Guys, and Nope. So it's really, again, a film that I think with more time can make some inches up in this list, but I think it's fairly placed considering, again, how I feel about the movie overall, even if it has such a positive spin and something, again, I won't forget for anytime soon.
You know, this would make a fantastic stage play. If you added music to it.
Oh, yeah.
I think it would be an outstanding stage play, stage musical. Yeah,
I can see that.
Somebody call it Rachel Zegler will do it right now. She's in everything.
She will.
And Ben Platt will try and convince you that he's in his 20s. He'll play the lead.
True. That's true. All right, so this is where this is going to be interesting, Phil, for the more like this, because I'm starting to maybe lose some confidence in what movies you have seen, and I think we're starting to underestimate the amount of movies I have seen.
Yeah, the early 2000s were like a weird time for us. We were watching only mainstream movies.
I think you were, because I think I could name a lot. Like I'll do this at the end. I'll name off some movies I know for a fact you have not seen. You might not even know what these movies are, but I definitely do, especially in like the early 2010s.
Yeah.
So I'm going to go with what I think you've probably seen. Why don't we go with a Matthew Vaughn film that comes up right at the beginning? Would you rather watch Stardust or Kick-Ass?
Probably Kick-Ass.
Probably Kick-Ass, yeah. I understand that.
Yeah.
Would you rather watch, and this is pretty fitting, Stardust or A Knight's Tale?
Oh,
with Heath Ledger.
A Knight's Tale. Yeah, A Knight's Tale for sure. Yeah.
Knight's Tale is pretty fucking iconic. Speaking of which, did I tell you I went to Medieval Times for the first time? In my trip in Orlando.
If you tell Jordan this when you meet with her about Meld, she's gonna kill herself.
She might. Dude, that was a good ass time.
It's
food wasn't that bad.
Food's good.
Yeah, food wasn't that bad either.
You get to root for your knight. It's a good time.
Yeah, I was hoping to see Matthew Elkins there. I got the Yellow Knight. Yeah, he lost really early. It was really unfortunate. Yeah. But
weren't you also Team Mystic back in the day?
So anyway, we got to get back to the game. I don't know if you've seen this movie. It's one of my favorite movies, though. Would you rather watch Stardust or The Mask of Zorro?
Mask of Zorro.
Okay.
Mask of Zorro.
I fucking love that movie.
Yeah. It's not really
Would you
fair.
rather watch Stardust or the Dungeons and Dragons movie, Honor Among Thieves?
Okay, so I've never finished the Dungeons and Dragons movie.
You still haven't?
No. I every time I try to watch it, something happens, so I need to finish it. I feel pretty confidently that it would be Dungeons and Dragons, because they need to just greenlight a sequel for that movie and just, recast Justice Smith. But everything else is like really good about Dungeons and Dragons.
Like really good. Yeah. Let's see. All right.
What happens if Justice Smith ever comes to a convention?
We know who to bring in.
We got a ringer.
We're happy to share the wealth. So would you rather watch, this is where it gets tough. So I kind of gave you some easier hitters because I thought you might pick Stardust. This isn't looking good. Would you rather watch Stardust or the Pirates of the Caribbean?
You don't have
and
to
we'll just say,
you don't have to.
We'll just say any of them that aren't, any of
I would watch
the trilogy.
Stardust before, the trilogy. I was going to say before the fourth one. Fourth on, I would definitely watch Stardust before any of the Pirates of the Caribbean movies.
Would you rather watch Stardust or any of the Harry Potter films that you've seen?
Probably most of the Harry Potters. I also still haven't seen like the first three.
That's interesting because the first three are like a time capsule.
Yeah.
Actually, hold on. For the first two for sure. What is the
first one I saw was the one where what's his name? Robert Pattinson dies.
You know what? I'm going to tell you this right now. I would do a Late to the Party for the Prisoner of Azkaban. That's might be my favorite one. That's not. The Goblet of Fire is great. The fourth one. People are mixed on that, but The Prisoner of Azkaban is actually pretty fucking
Goblet
solid.
of Fire is the one where Robert Pattinson dies, right? That's
where Voldemort shows up, which is a crazy fucking entry for you.
I know. Because I was like, where go get him.
the first three, the first three have some sense of wonder, or the first two have some sense of wonder still, and they have a very specific theme. The third one is where it starts to turn into that darker side of the story and everything. But I really like the Prisoner of Azkaban. That's an interesting thing. I'll put that in mind for later. Would you rather watch Stardust or Hook?
Hook. Yeah.
Hook's really good. Mm-hmm. Yeah, this is doing some contenders here. Would you rather watch Stardust or any of the Lord of the Rings films?
Yeah. Yep.
Okay.
Yep.
This
The
is
fact that I
going very
literally
well.
rewatched Fellowship should tell you a lot.
Yeah, this isn't going very well. So I think what I'm going to do, what I'm going to do now is I'm going to start rattling off movies that I have seen. But Phil, I kind of need to know, like, there's so many on this list. I might have to start, like, going into my letterbox because there are some here I would rate that I probably haven't yet. I actually kind of need to know, like, how many of these movies I'm aware of that you are not that are coming up on this list. So let's start off. We'll do IMDb. Did you ever watch the Underworld films?
No. But those were movies that were always on FX or something like that. You know what I mean? So, but no, I never sat down and watched them. No.
Did you ever watch Romeo and Juliet with Leonardo DiCaprio and Claire Danes? Okay. Stardust or Romeo and Juliet?
Romeo and Juliet.
Okay. Crazy. Now, this is where it gets kind of crazy. Did you ever watch the movie Mirror, Mirror? It is this might be like one of the first Julia Roberts films I watched, and it's a spin-off of like a Snow White story.
Oh, I do remember this, but I did not watch it.
Yeah, with Lily Collins. I enjoyed that movie. I remember that quite a bit. Did you ever watch Snow White and the Huntsman with Chris Hemsworth, Charlize Theron, and Kristen Stewart?
No. I do remember that time, but I did not watch that. No.
Did you ever watch Maleficent?
No. Absolutely.
Okay. Did you ever watch Prince of Persia? I did. These are all movies I've watched for sure. Like not the TBS. Like I thought I watched it. Like I know for a fact that I've watched this movie from start to finish. The Prince of Persia movie with Jake Gyllenhaal.
Yes, I have seen it. I don't really remember it, but so I'd probably go Stardust. Yeah.
Yeah, I enjoy that movie quite a bit. The Sorcerer's Apprentice with Nicolas Cage and
I have watched that actually.
Yeah. Okay. It's not bad.
That's good. Yeah, I'd go Sorcerer's Apprentice. I mean, Nick Cage. What was that? 2010's Nick Cage. So
yeah, it was unhinged. And then a couple more that are here. We talked about the movie Pan, I think, and you said you didn't watch this, the one where Hugh Jackman is Blackbeard.
No, I did not.
Yeah, that one's really bad. There was also John Carter.
Yeah, that's when.
Did you ever watch John Carter?
We were trying to make Joe Burrow a living man.
A thing.
In the 2010s.
It did. It did not work.
I did not watch John Carter. No, I do know it's like one of Disney's biggest flops of all. I've watched a lot of YouTube videos about John Carter, but I have not watched the movie itself.
I fucking love that movie.
Yeah.
I am one of the minority that actually enjoy that movie. So you never know where that'll come up. Anyway, yeah, that was a bunch of them that I named off that I knew for sure. I was like, I don't think he's seen these. I've never heard him talk about these, but I have a vivid memory of like each one of those.
Yeah. I do remember the big campaign for John Carter, but never sat down and watched it. Probably won't. So do not bring it up here. Do not.
So this is a great time to bring up Patreon, where you could recommend John Carter in October.
Please.
Which is supposed to be a horror theme month, but I think that's it. I think we've said everything we could say. We talked about quite a lot on this one. Yeah. And it was a really good time.
What a time, man. Again, shout out to Vintage. Great job. We'll see if we'll see how you do, Corey, for next week's episode. Can you top Stardust is the question. So, yeah, but this was a ton of fun. Again, shout out to our Patreon, or our patron Weight Watcher members for making this episode happen. If you want to keep up with the Wait For It podcast and everything that we have going on, make sure to click the Linktree link in the show notes of this and every single episode. Follow us on social media. Instagram, TikTok, our growing Discord community. Follow us on YouTube, like, share, and subscribe. Make sure to follow us on Twitch, where we are streaming every other week. And, of course, continue to follow Eric and I on our personal pages as we continue to navigate our content creation and voice acting journeys. We appreciate all the support that you guys have given us so far. And, of course, for the podcast listeners, audio-only listeners, head on over to Apple Podcasts, Spotify. Leave us a 5-star review whenever you can. That is also very, very beneficial and helpful to the show. If you'd like to participate, again, as Eric just mentioned, in our October Patreon month, or support the show a little bit more and get some extra content, he will let you know a little bit more about that before wrapping us up for the night.
Yeah, so we have a growing community over on Patreon, and some of those patrons, including Briar, T3 Cato, Vintage, Corey from The World Is My Burrito, Nick Casparo, the author of the Vitalarium series, and Botter from the Short Box podcast, where they're supporting us monthly in exchange for benefits like behind the scenes and early access to episodes just like this one. But Patreon month is another big thing. We did April and October, I believe, last year, and that should be the case this year. But whatever 2 months we decide to do this year, after April and going forward, we're going to do this at least once or twice a year. Maybe if we have enough patrons, we do this 3 times. You never know. So if you want to see what that looks like for the show, come on and join our growing community over on Patreon. If you can't, all the free stuff that Phil mentioned is very much appreciated, and it helps tremendously. With that being said, my name is Mr. Eric Almighty. That is my co-host, Phil the Filipino. And please don't forget, we release new episodes on the podcast every Wednesday. And all you got to do is wait for it.
This is the Wait For It podcast.